Saad, let's see if we've got you on. It's about
Hi,
the universe. Hey, you're on with Jen
I'm
and
here.
Tracie. Hey,
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened last time.
that's
I must have
okay.
dozed off.
That's all right.
It's 3 in the morning here.
So what's going on?
So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk to you about, so I know we've talked about so many things. We talked about the origin of the universe the last time around, and we kind of came to the point where we said, okay, this is too much, this is something that may not be answered because it requires more of an expert opinion. But then I thought, why not tackle certain things based, because, I've always felt like with my faith, I've always kind of believed everything is true because of logic. And I've always tried to understand my faith through logic, except only one thing that I can't really give you a real answer is the existence of God. It truly just requires blind faith from what I've been told. But other than that, everything revolving, everything in the field, I've always been able to get an understanding through logic, like why we fast. This is the month of fasting here. It is Ramadan, which is why I'm up right now. I actually have to prepare my fast right after this call. But why we have to pray 5 times a day and all sorts of things. I know I've discussed certain things with Matt as well, but I thought I'd run it by you.
Okay.
So basically, I mean, the idea of fasting, for example, because it's relevant to a lot of people, a lot of Muslims who are fasting this month. It's basically self-restraint, it's self-discipline. So you avoid eating and drinking and everything else that would be considered sinful. Your mileage may vary, but so in order to kind of and for the most part to humble yourself to those people who can't really afford a meal a day, because there are people, especially in my part of the world, who really can't afford. And in my city, Tracie, it's so hot, the weather. It's extremely difficult to for a lot of people, for most of the population to survive in this heat. But basically the whole point is that I'm a part of the educated class, so I'm so used to a privilege of bringing. So for us, it really makes us feel like we can't even stand a minute without the AC on in a car or in our offices. And once we're out, we're so exhausted. So it's basically an example of how one should discipline themselves. There's real logic behind doing it for 30 days. I don't know why 30 days has been chosen. There's probably a historical reason for that. But the actual reason behind the fasting, this is basically an example that I thought I'd explain to you.
Okay. And is that tied to the universe theory?
Well, in the sense that it comes from God. See, obviously, the whole point of the matter is that we have to believe in God, Tawheed, that there is no God but God. Only then, that's the foundation of Islam. That's what Islam was built on. And yes, there's the other half of the creed, which says that Muhammad was the messenger. When I was doing cross comparative studies of different faiths, I'm very fascinated by different religions of the world, especially Buddhism is something that I still am very fascinated by till today. So I've looked at the Judeo-Christian faiths, the Abrahamic faith as they called. I've looked at Judaism. I've looked at Christianity. In fact, in order to understand what these faiths are, I actually went to a church. I've been to a synagogue. I've had the Shabbat dinners. I've lived in the States. I've studied there. So I've spoken to people of different faiths. In fact, I've spoken to atheists too. And I think I remember mentioning to Matt that for 1 year I even lived with an atheist from Nepal.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's very open-minded, and I think that's good that you're willing to meet people and talk to people and consider different views. So what is this thing about the universe?
Well, I feel like, I always felt like there's so many unresolved mysteries. I mean, I know we can say that because there's no answer for what caused everything, we should attribute to God. But the fact of the matter is, who else, like I asked you last time, and I really don't have a better answer for this. Like, okay, the Big Bang Theory is the explanation of why the Earth exists today and why we are, but what really caused it? What was behind it?
Is it okay? Is it okay to, if you don't have the information to actually indicate an accurate answer, is it okay to say that you don't know?
Yes, I don't know, but in my faith, but if I just base it on faith, I have to say yes, it was God.
But you don't have to. You don't have to base it on faith, though. Yeah. That's the beauty part.
That's the thing is, like, I believe that God created the universe. I mean,
I guess you can.
I mean, we understand that, but the question I guess we're more interested in is why you believe that.
Well, you see, when I'm part of a faith, I know people like to criticize Islam a lot, and there's so many things that people will say is wrong, and I'm not going to debate. I'm not getting into that debate right now, But according to my own experiences, I have to attribute all of this to a creator, because that's, not just because my faith tells me, because everything else makes sense. Like, all of these have to come from a creator, because they were revealed to the prophet.
So here's the problem that we're going to have, though, Saad. Here's what the problem is. So we've got this void where there's no information, and where I'm saying, I don't know what this is, and really we don't know what it is. And you're saying, I believe that it's this creator, but I acknowledge that there's really a void of information here upon which to base the decision. I find that answer satisfying, right? It's like emotionally satisfying to me to think that a creator is responsible for that gap in our knowledge. And you can do that, but really I don't know what there is to talk about, right? Like, that's kind of the end of the conversation at that point.
I mean, I want you to pick your brain a bit. Like if there is no creator behind the universe, then could we just believe that it just came out of nowhere?
Well, I'm saying you don't have to believe anything. You can say, I don't know what happened, and until we get information about what happened, I don't know. So it's almost like if you had a brother, for example, that disappeared one day, like just disappeared. Nobody knew what happened. He went out one night. He never came home the next day, and they never found him. And you could sit all day long and worry about what could have happened, right? And you can think to yourself, well, there's a picture of him getting dropped off at the nightclub, and then we never don't have any video footage of him leaving, and so we don't know what happened. You could come up with all kinds of ideas, and you could have all kinds of feelings, and you could think that it's emotionally satisfying to hope that he's still alive somewhere and that he's going to come back at some point. You could have all kinds of reactions to it, but the point is, if we're going to talk about what actually is true about what happened to your brother, if we don't have information, there's nothing I can say about it. Like, you could talk about what you believe, but I have no response because I've got no information.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. But okay. Here's what I would say, that there was the Quran, the book was revealed to the Prophet 700 something around that time AD. And really compared religious scholars that I've spoken to, or at least that I've heard, unbiased scholars, they've always often the information that I've gotten from them, even from them personally, is that the Quran, the way it was recorded and the way it exists today, it was the same as it was originally compiled. Versus the Bible
that is not information from unbiased scholars. That is part of your mythology. It's part of the tradition. It's the same tradition that people say, oh, well, the Bible is the inerrant word of God. And so what? It's a claim from a religious tradition.
It is, and I could point out tons of logical fallacies in the New Testament easily, especially the way it's compiled.
And so what?
Doesn't make sense to me even. Even if I try to believe it.
And so what?
So in my opinion, if there's this book which I feel has so much truth in it, and it comes from a God, could we not say that this is the being that created the universe?
I'm sorry, what was that?
If I feel there's so much truth in what I believe in, and if we can prove that yes, the book that was revealed so many years ago, or so many centuries ago, is still the same as it was. If you could come up, if I could show you proof, or if you could come across proof, could we not say that this is from a creator?
No.
It just means, even if it hadn't changed in 700 years, even if we found a manuscript of it from 700 years ago that was identical, all we would be looking at is a book that hasn't changed in 700 years.
Yeah, but I understand it's very hard to attribute these things to creators, especially when, when everything that, at least from my conversation with atheists, it boils down to evidence and, science. Like, it has to be proven by science somehow or the other. The funny thing is, science is still not complete. There's still a lot of things that science is still trying to figure out.
Science.
What we're trying to do.
Do you even understand what we're talking about when we say science? It's not like a book that one day is going to be finished.
Right, but I mean, as far as what he's describing, yes, there are things we don't know. And in fact, we started with that part of the conversation. So again, if we're going to circle back, and if the point is going to be, I don't know what happened before Big Bang, or that there's not like a really solid theory on it, that's fine. I'll acknowledge that. But then I'm saying at that point, we just say, we don't know. I don't know what else there is to talk about.
But could you my I could say this would be my last question to you. If I could tell you all the beliefs, the entire belief system or the belief structure of my faith, and if all of those things make logical sense to you, do you think that if it makes logical sense and Islam says that it's from God, would you still give Islam the benefit of the doubt?
Would I still give what?
Islam the benefit of the doubt.
Islam.
I don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt. What you're basically saying is, what if something made sense? And I'll just say, off the bat, that I read like a Taoist book, and the thing to me was brilliant, right? Like it made perfect sense. It didn't make any supernatural claims. It just basically talked about perspective. And at the end of it, I was just like, wow, I feel like that was like an incredibly relevant book for me, even though it was written, many, many years ago. And some Buddhist texts are like that for me. Like I'll read them and be like, oh, that's super relevant even today. Like I really, and Aesop's fables, right? Like I'll read those and be like, oh, I totally relate to that still. I don't think that it takes a god to say things that make sense. Even thousands of years ago, people, I'm sure, were able to make sense sometimes, right?
Well, yeah, there were a lot of smart people. There's smart people in every century, I'm sure of it. I mean, if there's people like Aristotle and Socrates so many centuries ago, then I'm sure they existed even then.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I read it all and I thought, wow, this book makes sense, I've read old, really old books that I think make sense. And for example, there's like some Hindu books that are like stories. And those don't not make sense, right? Like they make sense to me because they're stories. So, it's kind of a weird thing. I don't know that is a demonstration. I would say it's not a demonstration of a god. It might be an interesting book. It might be a relevant book. It might resonate today, which would be really great that somebody penned something down that resonated, even today. There are some folks that do that. But I don't know that it's evidence of a god.
Yeah. It's the same thing when I talk to people of different faiths. They seem to defend it with such conviction that sometimes you just have to say, okay, fine, you believe what you believe, I believe what I believe, and that's it. And the beautiful thing about this, even Islam says the same thing too. The Quran has a line, and there's no compulsion in religion, which I feel is really cool, because even we're not supposed to tell people that you're wrong. We're supposed to show them, okay, this is the book. If it makes sense to you, believe it. We're not gonna. I don't understand that there's criticism about it. of people or Muslims who have forced people into conversion, but those are people who are part of the faith, not the faith itself.
Well, if
That's
you
my
if you're
defense.
like not supposed to force people and you're just supposed to tell them about it, you have done your duty.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I've done my job here, but I'm not here to preach here at all. I'm not here to convert you guys into Islam or anything. And because I myself am not the most perfect Muslim, believe me, I don't pray 5 times prayers a day. I'm only praying it this month because everybody becomes a bit more, a bit more obedient and a bit more religious this
I
month.
understand. All right. Well, hey, we've got some other callers on the line, so thanks for your call, Saad.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot for debating. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, cool. We're going to move on to